In the distant age of chaos, when the heavens were not yet stable and earth and vast and desolate, life was harsh and fragile. The world lacked the brightness we know today. People often trembled in the cold of endless nights, praying for the sun to linger just a little longer. When the sun rose, it brought warmth and hope. But when it set, darkness and fear returned to rule the land. It was in this ancient time that a great giant was born. His name was Kua Fu. Kua Fu was no ordinary being. Towering above mountains, his strength shook the ground. With each breath, he seemed to summon the wind. With each step, thunder rolled beneath his feet. He carried a massive wooden staff that seemed to connect the earth and sky. Yet, more remarkable than his strength was the burning desire within his heart. He could not bear to watch his people shiver in darkness, nor endure the sight of barren land withering in the cold. Deep inside, a single thought blazed like fire. I will chase the sun. I will seize its light, and I will keep it in the sky, so the world will never again be swallowed by fear. It was a wish beyond imagination, yet Kua Fu feared nothing, and so his pursuit began. As the first golden rays of dawn spread across the horizon, Kua Fu rose and gave chase. His strides were as swift as storms, his feet pounding the ground like drums of war. Mountains shrank beneath his shadow, rivers surged past his side. By day he ran beneath the blazing sun, sweat pouring from his body like rivers. By night he pressed on beneath the stars, never slowing, never resting. The world changed around him. Snow melted beneath his feet as he crossed mountains. Herds scattered in fear as he thundered across vast grasslands. Winds howled and sandstorms raged as he swept through endless deserts. And still above him, the sun moved westward, just beyond his reach. To Kua Fu, nothing mattered but that burning orb of light. But the journey was far harsher than even he had imagined. The closer he drew, the more scorching the heat became. The air itself seemed aflame, searing his chest with every breath. His throat burned with thirst, desperate for relief. So he bent low and drank from the mighty yellow river. Waters roared into him, yet the fire within was not quenched. He turned to the Wei River and drank again, swallowing the torrent whole. But still his thirst raged on. It was as though the fire of the sun had ignited inside his very soul, consuming him from within. He knew his life was slipping away. Yet he did not stop. His steps grew heavier, his breath more ragged, but his eyes remained fixed on the light. Because this was not only his pursuit, it was for his people, for every living being beneath the sky. If he could bring them light, then any sacrifice was worth it. At last, in unbearable exhaustion, Kua Fu collapsed. The earth trembled as his massive body struck the ground. He had not caught the sun. His colossal figure lay across the land, a monument to both his struggle and his fall. But even in death, he left behind a gift. With the last of his strength, he thrust his great staff into the earth. From it sprang a flourishing forest of peach trees. Their shade gave rest to weary travelers. Their sweet fruit quenched thirst. Though he failed to capture the sun, Kua Fu gave humanity another kind of light and hope. From that day on, people gathered beneath the peach trees there, speaking of the giant who dared to chase the sun. They remembered him not for his fall, but for his courage. He became the eternal symbol of perseverance, the proof that even when dreams are impossible, the act of striving itself is noble. Poets would later write, "Though Kua Fu perished, his will lives on." It is because of such ancestors that humankind has always lifted its eyes to the heavens, daring to reach for what lies beyond. The myth of Kua Fu is not merely a tale of the past. It is a timeless reminder. It tells us that the longing for light and the pursuit of ideals are bound deep within human nature. Even when the path is harsh, even when the end is failure, we must still run with all our strength. And so, when we recall this story today, we can almost see him again, an immense figure striding across the land, chasing the blazing sun. His footsteps still echo beneath the mountains. His spirit still burns within the hearts of all who dare to dream. Icarus flies toward the sun. Long ago, in the world of ancient Greece, there lived a master craftsman named Daedalus. His mind was sharp, his hands unmatched in skill. He could carve statues so lifelike they seemed ready to breathe, and he could build labyrinths so cunning that no one who entered could ever find their way out again. But his brilliance came at a cost. On the island of Crete, the king grew wary of Daedalus's talents, fearful of the secrets he might share. And so the king imprisoned Daedalus and his young son, Icarus, within high stone walls, surrounded on all sides by the vast and endless sea. For a time, they lived as captives. The ocean stretched before them, an eternal reminder of their cage. Ships came and went upon the waves, but escape was impossible. The king's guards watched the harbors, and the labyrinth itself seemed to mock Daedalus. The very invention of his genius now turned into a prison for his freedom. Yet Daedalus's mind never ceased to create. As he gazed at the gulls that wheeled and cried above the cliffs, an idea took root. If men could not flee by land or sea, then perhaps they could flee by air. Day after day, Daedalus gathered feathers dropped by the birds, some small and downy, some long and strong. Patiently he shaped them, binding them together with thread, sealing them with soft wax melted from candles. Slowly the feathers formed wings, great sweeping arcs, curved like those of the seabirds that soared overhead. At last he fashioned 2 pairs, one for himself, one for his son. Before they set out, Daedalus turned to Icarus, his voice solemn. "My child, listen closely. These wings will carry us beyond these prison walls, but they are fragile, and freedom has its price. Fly too low, and the spray of the sea will weigh down your feathers. Fly too high, and the fire of the sun will melt the wax. You must follow my path, steady between the two. Obey me, or disaster will follow." Icarus nodded eagerly, though his young heart beat with excitement more than caution. To him, the wings were not merely tools of escape. They were a miracle. They were freedom itself. And so, with a leap of faith, father and son took to the skies. At first, their flight was clumsy. The air caught beneath their feathers, lifting them higher, higher still. The world that once caged them grew smaller and smaller. Beneath their feet, the labyrinth shrank to lines in the dust. The sea glittered like a sheet of glass, and the wind rushed past their ears in songs of freedom. For Daedalus, each moment was tense, his eyes fixed on his son. He kept his wings steady, neither too high nor too low, careful as only wisdom could be. But Icarus, oh, Icarus felt a joy he had never known. The prison walls were gone. The chains of earth had fallen away. His laughter rang out against the sky as he beat his wings with growing confidence. Higher he rose, skimming above the sea. He felt the salty spray on his legs, cool and sharp. Then higher still, above the clouds, where the air was thin and the sun blazed in its glory. The warnings of his father faded from his memory. In their place came a hunger, a reckless longing. If I can fly this high, why not higher? Why not touch the very sun? The golden light called to him, dazzling and beautiful. He spread his arms wide, wings straining with every beat, soaring toward the burning heavens. For a moment he was no longer a boy. He was a god, rising into eternity. But the sun, though glorious, is merciless. Its heat beat down upon the fragile wings. The wax that bound the feathers began to soften, then to drip. At first, a feather slipped free, tumbling down like a snowflake. Then another, and another. Icarus barely noticed, drunk on the ecstasy of flight. Then suddenly his wings shuddered. The feathers scattered in the wind. The frame of his wings cracked, useless against the open air. He cried out in terror, reaching for the sky he could no longer hold. And in that instant, he plummeted. The wind howled past him. The sea rushed up to meet him. His father's desperate cries echoed across the sky. And with a final splash, the boy who flew too high was swallowed by the waves. The sea where he fell was named thereafter the Icarian Sea, in memory of his flight and his fall. Daedalus, broken-hearted, continued his journey alone. He had given his son wings, but he could not give him wisdom. And so the story of Icarus became more than a tragedy. It became a warning. Yet it is not only a warning, for Icarus also embodies something deeply human. He was reckless, yes, but also fearless. He saw the sky not as a boundary, but as a promise. He longed not just for freedom, but for transcendence. And though his body fell, his spirit soared higher than any mortal before him. Generations remembered him. Poets wrote of his daring, philosophers debated his folly. Was he a fool undone by hubris? Or was he a hero, reaching for the impossible, tasting the fire of the gods, if only for a moment? The myth of Icarus is a mirror. It shows us the danger of pride, the cost of ignoring wisdom, but it also reflects our deepest yearning, to rise beyond limits, to chase what lies beyond reach, even if it destroys us. Today, when we hear his name, we remember both sides of the tale, the boy who disobeyed and the dreamer who dared. His wings may have melted, his body may have fallen, but his story still soars, carried on the winds of time. Kua Fu and Icarus across two ancient worlds. Separated by oceans and cultures, two myths were born. In China, the giant Kua Fu chased the blazing sun across the horizon. In Greece, the young Icarus soared toward the heavens on wings of wax and feathers. Both stories, though distant in origin, carry striking similarities. Kua Fu and Icarus were dreamers. Neither was content with the limits placed upon them. Kua Fu could not accept the endless cycle of darkness that tormented his people. Icarus could not accept the prison walls that confined him to earth. Both lifted their eyes to the sun, that eternal symbol of light, hope, and transcendence, and both set out on journeys that defied the boundaries of mortality. Yet their endings diverge. Kua Fu ran until his strength failed, collapsing in exhaustion. But even in death, his staff took root, transforming into a peach forest that nourished generations. His failure gave birth to life, and his sacrifice became a gift to humankind. Icarus, in contrast, rose higher and higher until pride overcame caution. The wax melted, his wings unraveled, and the sea claimed him. His fall left behind no gift but a warning about the cost of ignoring wisdom, about the thin line between aspiration and hubris. In this way, the two myths reveal different cultural visions. The Chinese tale of Kua Fu praises endurance and devotion to the collective. Though he failed to capture the sun, his struggle embodied the spirit of perseverance, and his final act gave life to others. It is a story of sacrifice transformed into hope. The Greek tale of Icarus, meanwhile, reflects the tension between freedom and restraint, ambition and humility. It warns against reckless desire, yet it also acknowledges the beauty of daring to dream. Icarus may have fallen, but he touched the heavens, if only for a fleeting moment. And what do these stories mean for us today? For modern people, they are more than distant myths. They are mirrors of our own lives. In Kua Fu, we see the call to perseverance, to run toward our goals even when they seem unreachable, to strive not only for ourselves, but for the good of others. His peach forest reminds us that even when we cannot achieve everything we dream, the effort we give may still leave lasting gifts for those who come after us. In Icarus, we see both a warning and an inspiration. His fall reminds us to respect the wisdom of limits, to balance ambition with caution. Yet his flight also stirs something deep within us, the unyielding desire to rise higher, to touch the impossible, even knowing the risks. He shows us that dreams, however fragile, give meaning to our lives. Together, these two myths speak across cultures and centuries. They tell us that humanity has always struggled with the same questions. How far should we chase our ideals? How much should we sacrifice? What does it mean to pursue light, even if it costs us everything? Kua Fu and Icarus answer in different voices, yet both remind us of a timeless truth. To be human is to strive, to reach, to dream beyond the horizon. And so, whether we walk the ancient lands of China or sail the seas of Greece, the echoes of these stories still guide us. They urge us to seek the sun, not blindly, not recklessly, but with courage, with wisdom, and with hearts that dare to dream.